Jim, so great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
I was gonna let you know I was really excited. I got your book unannounced in the mail, and your team had reached out and said, "Hey, we're interested in coming on the podcast." And I get a lot of solicitation for coming on the podcast, but this is one of the conversations that I have been really, really excited about. That a team came out and reached out to me.
Oh, well, that's I'm just as honored. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to hear what questions you have for me.
Yeah,
I nothing about what's coming. So
we'll
it'll
see
be
how we can do. Well, look,
yeah.
we've got a big audience of men. A lot of them are in the hunting world. I've been hunting for the past 8 years, so I haven't hunted along very long. But I know that there's a lot of guys interested in what you do, and I think one of the most fascinating things with you is that you're well known for hunting, for your outdoor shows, but there's so much more about you. As you get to dive a little deeper into your life and figure out how things started from journalism to being a world class athlete to being in the military, Canadian military. It's pretty incredible what you've been able to do. And I'm always curious when a guy like you is a bit of a renaissance man, I would say. Like, what is it that drives you towards certain hobbies, activities, and interests, and how do you decide which ones to go with?
You know, a long time ago, well, I mean, I grew up in a trailer park. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and when they finally did, manage to scrape together enough to buy a little house, the conversation every night from when I was 10 years old to when I was 17, I left home. Uh, the conversation was whether dad would get laid off and whether, the Jack Evans, the fellow that owned the company, was going to give him a raise and whether he'd get any holidays, which was never anyway. Um, and I realized at the age of 10, literally 10 was kind of that, it was grade five. That was the time of epiphany for me that you get one life. It's one life. We don't get a do-over on this. And if it's your life, why wouldn't you live it doing the things that you love to do, that you're passionate about, and never let somebody else have their claws into you, so they can dictate to you what the joy of your family. Makes no sense to me. It made no sense at that age, and I determined in my life to whatever I was going to do, I was going to be passionate about, and whatever I was passionate about, I was going to do my best at it, whatever that was. But and to be fair, I didn't pick things. I didn't want to be an NBA center. I'm 6'3". I'm not tall enough. So I didn't pick things that were outside of the possibility, the realm of possibility. But yeah, so it was just a determination to live my life with absolutely no regrets when I got to the age I'm today, 65 years old. There's none. I was asked the other day by somebody, "Do you have any regrets?" And they were implying that I should have. Everybody does, and I said no. There's not one single choice I've made in my life that I regret making that choice, because every choice I made with intent to live my life. So whatever amount of knowledge, it doesn't mean every choice was right in terms of, should you invest in the stock market this week or next week? I mean, you're right or wrong. You make your decision based on the knowledge you have, but you can't have regrets on that when it turns out, serendipity doesn't work out. So I have zero regrets, and that's how I lived my life. Everything I'm passionate about, I went all in on it to the best of my abilities, with keeping family as the number one overriding factor in all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know you to be a family man, and I don't know you personally, but from what I've seen, your daughter was in here talking with us just a minute ago, and it's pretty amazing when you can bring your children and your wife into what you're doing, and you can build this life together as a family unit, because I think that's an increasing rarity.
Yeah, if you're living your life, and again, it's not like I go to a job every day where I have to leave my wife and kids at home and I come home and that's my time with them. My life is my job, is my work, is my avocation, my vocation. So it's whatever I'm doing with. If it's with family, then it's with family. So it worked out for us. I mean, we took our son when he was 18 months old, Bramlin, to Australia and New Zealand, and we hitchhiked. I mean, we literally got off in Brisbane, and I just went, "Where are we going?" And north, I know North Australia is pretty cool, and I mean, literally with my poor, long-suffering Louise, my soulmate, and an 18-month-old baby, we were hitchhiking, got a ride with a truck to go north. I mean, it's not expensive. Getting there was expensive, but after that, it's not that expensive. People will say, you know, they're limited by funds, and say, well, you know, are you really, or is it because you want to go 5-star resorts the whole time? You know, you save money to be able to do something, which you have, you know, it takes money to get there, but once you're in these places, you can just go. So we lived our life like that. We brought our children into whatever we were doing, and it was a pretty natural progression for them as they got older. Went to school, went to university, to you know, and then they went off on their own, did their own things. Eva, not so much. She came right into the company, but they took their own parts of this business and went off on their own, but still related to what we're doing. I mean, it's and I think it's because it's such a wonderful lifestyle. Field to table living is I mean, I wouldn't want to live any other way. And when you look at all the possibilities, they've settled on a similar type of lifestyle, which means doing similar things to what, you know, Louise and I did.
Yeah, I think people are fascinated with your family and your story because it's something that I think deep down a lot of people strive to have in their own life with regards to family, that field to table lifestyle, being out and hunting, and you know. But you built your empire, for lack of a different term, when social media really wasn't really wasn't a thing. You know, you were doing channels and shows on and outdoor things before this was really a thing. How did you guys break into that market and really make a name for yourselves as a family and as an avid outdoorsman and hunter?
You know, part of it was timing, and part of it was keeping my eyes open, and just having a very clear perspective, not being caught. You know, I wasn't golden handcuffed to something that made me go a certain direction. I was, you know, I could just watch and make decisions. And when I first started, I was right. Well, I mean, that's not true. I came out of university, and I also thought I'd be a real estate developer because that seemed like a good, quick way to make a lot of money. And I think I got it. I worked as a project manager, took all kinds of courses to learn how to build, and, you know, started as a laborer with a developer, and worked my way up to project manager, and then started on my own. I had 10 houses going and 3 apartment buildings in 1980, which probably you're too young to remember, but it was interest rate went
1 year too young.
yeah, a little yeah, the interest rates went up to 23%. At 23%, you know, so everybody got their money back on my, you know, real estate development career. But I realized, okay, you know, there's world events that are out of your control. You can be as good as you can possibly be at something, but especially when you're starting out, you better pick something that you have a little bit more control over. So I walked away with my dog and my car and my stereo, and started doing. I loved antiques too, so I started going to garage sales and buying something for $50, selling it for $100, and then the economy started coming back, and that real estate developer that I'd been originally working for offered me a job with lots of money, and you know, because I was good at it, and I phoned my dad and I said, "What should I do, Dad? You know, what do you think?" And he said, "You better take that job. You know, and it's a job is a job." And I said, "Thanks a lot for the advice, Dad." And I hung up and I phoned the developer and said, "Ain't no way. You know, there's not enough money in the world that you're going to get me to work for you. I mean, it's not going to happen." And I told Dad, I'm going to write for hunting magazines. 1984. I'm going to start writing. And he told me, he said, "Everybody wants to do that. That's the hardest thing you could possibly choose." You know, Jim Zumbo was already a star, Carmichael, all these guys. Jack O'Connor was just really done at that point. But you know, everybody wanted to do it. If you can write and go around and hunt, I mean, it's kind of a wonderful world. But that's what I decided to do. And if I have any talent, it's writing. You know, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's it's a skill that somewhere, it never got me more than a C plus in every single creative writing class or literature class in my life, in university even. But, I could write. So I started writing stories in 1984 for hunting magazines. And this is answering your question now a little more directly. Um, about the same time, video cameras, ones that you could actually hold, that weren't these big giant monster things,
Sure.
and they're pretty low res, but I looked at that and said, okay, that's kind of cool. So the first ones that came out, I was into them. The 8 mm was the first ones, and then high 8, and then super 8, and VHS was the very first ones. But I learned how to edit, and I was writing by then. So by 1990, I'd published, I don't know, maybe 500 or 600 hunting articles or adventure travel
Wow.
articles. I even wrote for magazines like Western Living magazine, which is not a hunting at all. It's kind of a fashion lifestyle magazine on the West Coast. Um, but to me, it seemed like you could tell the same story with a video camera. And I was already, using still cameras for my articles. Said, well, I can just tell the same story without writing 1,000 words. I can just tell the story. And at that same time, cable vision networks were coming on board. So there was 3 networks: CBC or CBS, NBC, and ABC. And that was it when I grew up. That was it. In Canada, we had CBC. So when the cable networks came on, it's like streaming video now. There was no content. So there's all these channels and they didn't have anything to show. So by then I'd been writing enough to get sponsors, commercial partners that were paying me. Use our whatever binoculars, use our clothes, whatever it was.
Sure.
So so I went to the network and I said, I just want to buy some airtime. And they said, well, no, we'll buy your TV show. And I said, no, I want to buy some airtime, and I get all the commercial space. And they said, well, we'll keep some of the commercial space. And you're not going to be selling into my own show. I want
Right.
all the commercial space. And so that's what I did from day one. I went right to my sponsors, and I said, you want to do TV shows? Everybody wanted to do TV at that time, and that's about the year 2000, because I was doing videos before that, VHS, and I was on Bill Jordan's Realty Outdoors on TNN, was on ESPN, on North American Hunter, back in the day, and that would be back 91 or so. But by the year 2000, I was ready to do my own show and had my own airtime, and sold all the commercial space, and then just kept telling stories. And they said it would never work because it wasn't, my intention wasn't to sell whitetails or turkey stories. I'm going to have whitetails, but that's not going to be just whitetails, not just turkeys. It's going to be adventure wherever I could go. There's crazy moose and caribou in the high, far north, the high Arctic for polar bears, and whatever's up there, muskox. And they said it wouldn't work, and I said no. Hunters, it doesn't matter what you're going after. That when you understand what you're under, when you have access to your ancestral soul, you doesn't matter what someone's showing you, or you're hunting, you get it, you understand it. We speak the same language all over the world. We're kindred spirits. Doesn't matter what color we are, or what we eat, what language we speak. If it's hunters are hunters, and that's what I believed in, and I just kept going from there, making it 1 hour shows. I think we have 3 shows going right now: Shock Therapy, and 2 on the Aboriginal People's Television Network up in Canada, Yukon Harvest and Coastal Carvers. And then I started taking people on outfitting adventures. Basically, I reinvested into what I love doing. So I mean, to me, it seemed pretty easy. It wasn't even I could see 10 years in advance. Now it's a little harder to see 10 years in advance. Things change quickly now. But in those days, yeah, there was nothing on the horizon for 10 years, and this is the way it's going to be. So it was, you do what you love. And I guess what I say is, if you drive in one direction for half a century, you end up somewhere. So I just never let myself be sidetracked on anything I wanted to do. It was always focused on living this one life, and family number one, and making sure that I had no regrets at the end of that one life. So Yeah, pretty.
You seem like too, in addition to that, somebody who knows what he wants, willing to take risk. This is what I'm gathering from what you shared, and then also being bold. You know, going to a cable company, for example, and telling them, "No, I'm going to be the one to sell the ads," which is really probably different because I think most people would look at that payday and think, "Well, you know, we've made it. This cable network bought our show and we've made it. Now they're going to sell ads, and that's where the revenue comes from them selling the ads." But it sounds like you had enough insight to say, no, we're going to do this on my terms, and I realize that this is where the income is going to be generated from. That's pretty intelligent ahead of time, and something I don't think a lot of people would do.
Yeah, the reason people fail at it is because they go in with the wrong intention. They want to be able to sign hats. They want to be able to be recognized at an airport. They want the celebrity and the acclaim, the recognition. But that's like a drug, you know, and there's no return on that investment at all. All it is, I guess, makes you feel, I don't know,
Sure,
worthy,
strokes
but
the ego for sure.
yeah, but it's not. Why would you do that if it doesn't? There has to be a back end on whatever you're doing for television. In my mind, if you're going to turn yourself into celebrity, what's the back end on it? What are you actually getting out of it? Because celebrity is hollow. There's no joy. I don't even consider myself a celebrity. I could care less. I think it's wonderful when people come up, we talk and we visit, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate it every single time. But that should never be your goal. That's a byproduct of doing whatever you're doing in your life well. Recognition comes because you're the best at something. It's pretty simple. You know, you can be the best plumber, and you'll be recognized in your community. Absolutely, you just whatever you're doing, if you're the best at, that's where the celebrity comes. You know, and it's local or international or maybe it's national, provincial, statewide, depending on what you're doing. But that should never be your goal. That's the byproduct of doing whatever you're doing well. And so for me, that was it would have made zero sense to do it any other way. Because what was I accomplishing? Nothing, you know, other than signing hats. And you know, that's fun, but it's not, that doesn't pay the mortgage. And I've seen guys, you know, there's that classic case, how do you become a millionaire making television shows on outdoor hunting and lifestyle? Well, easy, you start with 2 million. You know,
Yeah, right.
I've seen guys do it. I've seen them do it for, you know, 3-4 years, just fritter away $500,000 a year on doing their productions, and then they're gone. They used up all their money, and it was just so that they could, you know, get that fix of somebody recognize them. I never needed that. I know who I am. I don't need someone else to tell me who I am, or, you know, but it's nice. Don't get me wrong. You know, I love it. Don't want anybody to think I'm arrogant. I'm not. It's just, you know, that's their appreciation of letting me know that I'm doing my job well, which in many cases is educating, conservation, you know, talking about family, cultures, adventure, humor, camaraderie, all these kind of things. And, you know, and because it's hunting shows, there's, you know, animals involved as well. But all those other things I think, are more important than just what size the animal is. To me, it is anyway.
What would you say if you were to surmise everything that you've done? What, because you're talking about the intent of doing something which wasn't for notoriety or celebrity, which of course now you've received and reap the benefits of that as a byproduct, as you say. But what would be your, I don't know if you want to call it your life's purpose or your mission in this world. I don't know how you would frame it, but that's how other people have explained it. Do you have something like that that drives your decision making process?
There's somebody that's, you know, a wise philosopher, somebody, I'm not sure, said that it's not what you accomplish when you're alive, it's what people remember you for after you're gone. You know, we all remember Fred Bear. You know, Fred Bear was legend. Why do we remember him? Because of what he stood for. You know, it wasn't because he hunted X amount of animals or did whatever. It's because of what he stood for. You know, so yes, he accomplished a lot of things in archery, but that's not his legacy. That's not what people remember him for. It's, you know, I don't think there's anybody listening right now who can tell me what was the biggest deer he ever got, or how many, moose. I mean, we probably remember the bear on the beach, if we remember anything, that old footage. But I think it's important, when we're here, to me it is, you work towards leaving a legacy that people will remember after you're gone. So for instance, our Hand of Man Museum of Natural History, Cultural Arts, and Conservation up on Vancouver Island, it's 17,000 square feet, and it's filled with cultural artifacts from around the world, costumes that they've worn, or ethnic garb. There's dinosaur skeletons, woolly mammoth skeletons, woolly rhinos, narwhal skeletons, mounted animals from all over the full body mounts, no shoulder mounts. And a whole room of just different skulls from crazy animals from all over the world. But also the majority of it is cultural artifacts, totem poles, and there's Amish quilts, Doukhobor rugs. So I put that together, Louise and I did, over the years. Now, I started it when I was 10 years old with that exact place and filled with those objects in mind, because we had no money, but I could go to the library and get National Geographic. And at that age, I already decided I wasn't going to get a job and work like my dad did. So I was going to do whatever I wanted to do, and that meant putting this museum together. My wife and I, from the beginning, have known that we are going to donate it all. So it'll be here. We're donating the land, the building, the contents, and it's 17,000 square foot building, beautiful property, 2 blocks from the ocean, all treed, and this huge facility filled with artifacts. We're donating the land, the building, the contents, and giving it an endowment to cover expenses for the next 40 years.
Wow.
Now, right now, it's donation only right now, because I couldn't afford it to go in when I was young. $1 cover charge precluded me from going in. But for donation, I could have brought a grasshopper or a pretty rock or a seashell, and I'd have been the curator's nightmare. And there's kids that come in. Someone brought a moose tooth the other day, like that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and it's a young little boy, in the family, they can't afford it, but they can, because it's donation. And so that building, all those artifacts, they cannot. I'll make sure the board of directors is handcuffed, so they can never make it politically correct, whichever way the winds of social, what's acceptable, whatever way they're blowing. Museums that are trying, like our Royal British Columbia Museum up in BC, is trying to decolonize. They're erasing all the history of, like, Captain Cook. He came. You cannot. The diseases were there. You can't erase what we did, by whitewashing it, sanitizing history, and then you have a museum. It's not a museum anymore. So this museum will stay the way it is for the next 40 years after I'm gone, and I'll control it, from the grave. So there's, back to your question, what is, why do all this? Because if you can, you should. I can. Mallory's, why do you climb that mountain? Because it's there. Actually, I shouldn't probably quote Karl Marx, but from those according to their ability to those according to their need. That's one thing out of everything that he got right. The only thing he got right, really. But it is true. People come into that museum, and if they have lots of money, they give lots of donation, and that covers the cost of the people that don't have a lot of money. And I can do this. I was, whatever gifts I've been given in this one life we're allowed to live, that's one thing I can do. I can give everything away. I can't take it with me. A giant garage sale, that makes no sense either. It'll never be put back together, a collection like that. And until you actually see it, anybody that's listening, Google Hand of Man, you'll see the Google responses, and also the short videos one. It's all over the place. It's people love it. People love it, and we're giving. I can give it. My wife and I can give this to the community. So there's, why I do all this, so I can give it all away, and we should all be thinking that way. Giving it, to Eva, like, she's doing fine. So, and there'll be heirlooms and things that are important that actually have intrinsic value rather than just money. So in my mind, we should give everything away when we reach that age, and let the next generation, they, help them, but make them stand on their own 2 feet, allow them to realize their own potential, or lack of, if they don't have it, that's okay too. There's nothing, that's not failure. That's just realizing who you're capable of being. This sounds harsh, but it's, that's nature. So I could, so I did, I could, so I should. And, I have, and I will continue to do that. Leave this for everybody else, future generations, and hopefully inspire people along the way to say, hey, I can do that too. Someone might be listening right now that could be the next president of the United States. Just this conversation, you get one life, they'll change their direction off, where they start to go, yeah, I can realize my own potential. I can do what I'm capable of. I just have to do it. It's not hard. It's really not hard.
I want to shift gears a little bit because you've mentioned your wife, and I know, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss, that she's passed away relatively recently. In fact, we had a podcast, I think, maybe a day or two, scheduled a day or two before she passed, I believe. And the way I've seen you handle it is with so much grace and class. I can't imagine being in the situation you are. You talk so highly of her. Do you think part of the way that you've been able to handle that is because the projects and the things that you've done together? And what would you say is her legacy that she left?
Well, I mean, I could never have accomplished what I accomplished, when you look from the outside accomplishments, without Louise's support. She was my soulmate. And that's, we were perfect for each other. 39 years, 113 days, and 14 and a half hours. I was blessed. I mean, beyond blessed. And we were total opposites. Lady, tramp, beauty, beast. I was a organized hoarder. She was a minimalist. I mean, every single thing. But the one thing that we both were 100% all in on was family, and that was important to her. She was an actress. Everybody knew her. The people that were after Louise in those days are like the who's who of Hollywood. They're like and Prime Minister of Canada. Like that level of people were. She just had an aura that if she walked in a room, everybody, and not because she was just beautiful, she is obviously, but there's many pretty ladies out there, but there was something very, very special about Louise, and her and I knew it from our first date. It wasn't even a date. She wouldn't go on a date with me. She said no when I asked her out. I met her at a dance class. I've said this before on podcasts, but I was 26 and I was thinking, where am I going to find somebody that I'm going to spend my life with? I'm 26. I better, and this is how my brain works. I better start getting serious about this now. And I dated all the models in Vancouver and whatever. And I was thinking, okay, I want someone pretty, which is facile. I know, I'm sorry. I want someone that's athletic, nice body. I'm sorry, facile again. But it's not. It's. I know what I needed to keep me, straight on my whole life.
Sure.
Yeah, engaged. Sure it is. Yeah, challenged, whatever it is, and also someone with great family values. So I was sitting there, and it was like an epiphany. Dance class. There's got to be girls at dance class like that. So I looked at the yellow pages, and I found the biggest ad, and it was a place called Terpsichore, and phoned them up. Do you have dance classes? And they said, yes, that's what we do. And I said, well, what about tonight, 5 o'clock? And they said, we have advanced ballet jazz with Louise. So, I didn't know who that was. I walked in, and there's 30 women, one other guy, and me. And 1984, we're talking the tidiest shorts you can ever imagine, like really short. And
I know there's some good odds for you there too.
I looked at it as advertising. And so I went in with a little muscle shirt. In those days, it was okay. And I walked in, and they were West Side Story, 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through the choreography. And they've been working on it for weeks. And that's advanced ballet jazz. I didn't even know what a ballet was or a jazz. And so I walked in, doing jetés and pas deux or whatever they are, position 1, 2, 3, all these. I had no idea. I was a total idiot. But But the teacher, Louise, was absolutely stunning, gorgeous, and I knew who she was from seeing her on television. I mean, I'd watch TV at night just to see her in the exercise commercial she used to do, and well, I was like, oh, So I asked her out, and she said, like, just blew me off. And I said, well, it'll be the biggest mistake of your life. I can guarantee that. And she just kind of looked at me, and she tells it, or she did tell it, that it was you son of a gun, because she wasn't used to a guy actually kind of, hey, this is the truth. That you're just
Yeah.
the guy's just groveling. And so she said, okay, I won't go on a date, but I'll go for a walk on a beach. So we went for a walk on a beach, and I, she was pretty, obviously, but pretty girls, that's okay, but it doesn't mean that they have the rest of the story. So I basically grilled her. I asked her questions about family, about where she wanted to live. And by the end of the walk on the beach, I knew I'd marry her. I called my parents, told them I found the girl I'm going to marry. My sister, I called her, and all my buddies. I went in my little black book and got rid of all the dates. I canceled every date into the
Did you
future.
really?
Yeah, June 1st, 1984, and canceled everything because I said, I'm done. Sorry, all my buddies, no, I'm not finished. Don't even call me anymore. It took Louise 6 more days, so it was always a bone of contention saying, you mean I canceled all my dates and you had like 6 more days to be free and do whatever you want? But yeah, there's nothing I could have accomplished without Louise. She was my soulmate, but that's all part of the, no regrets. If you marry someone for the wrong reasons and you don't very clearly look at who you're marrying and understand that, yes, they may be pretty, yes, they may whatever, have every money or whatever it is. Louise always said, if you marry for money, you're going to work for every penny you're going to get. And it's very true. So I knew in my life, I knew where I was headed. I knew what I had to do. I had to choose a soulmate that would work with, because if I chose one of these other girls, it never would have worked. I could never. Yes, I may have been able to stay married, but that doesn't. You can't realize your own potential if you're constantly either being downtrodden or you're not happy with what's going on in your own life. Yeah, Louise and I, we were soulmates. It was truly, well, she came from heaven. She was an angel and went back, and she's touched so many people. When she passed, there was tens of thousands of people on social media, which, people denigrate social media, but there's some good about it. If
No
it's
doubt.
used properly, it's a wonderful, wonderful way to reach out and people to reach out and to have influence around the world. She touched so many people's lives. So, the things I accomplished, no regrets, but a big, big, big part of it, like I say, family was number one to me, and it was to Louise too, is who you choose as a soulmate. That's your first and your biggest decision in your life. Your career is nothing compared to that. Nothing. It doesn't even compare. I'm going to go to university. Where am I going to live? What kind of car am I going to drive? That's all fluff. Your major decision is who are you going to spend the rest of your life with and have children with. And a lot of people don't look at that. They don't look at that question as responsibly as they should, and they end up with people that they don't get along. They get divorced, and it can happen. But why did it happen? Because you settled. You settled. You didn't wait. Weren't patient. Weren't looking. Were caught up partying with your buddies or whatever, watching football games or doing whatever you're doing. But don't go crying to anybody later on when you just say, "Oh, let's get married," and it's your life. Again, it comes back to the choices you make in your life. It's your life. And if you want to have a family and have a family that, is well adjusted, not dysfunctional, and then it all comes down to that one major decision in your life. Who's your soulmate? Who's your soulmate? And you just, like I say, that was the most important decision I've ever made in my life. And and it was the right one for me. But no one ever gives you a guarantee that it's forever. And you asked me about, you said the way I'm dealing with it, and even right now, I'm not going to break down in tears, feeling sorry for myself. I had 39 years, 113 days, 14 and a half hours with an angel, my soulmate, and to throw a tantrum on the ground or scream and cry, and that would be not honoring what we had together. Every single second we lived consciously, and every minute was precious together. And when we were apart, even, the books I've written over the years are dedicated to Louise. We have shared the moon. We did. There's no mountain as high, no river, is fast, and nothing hurts. Nothing can challenge me like trying to deal with the time away from you. This is how I felt. I phoned her every single day. If it wasn't for satellite telephones, I probably never could have done the real far away remote things, because I couldn't reach out to her. But with satellite phone, we could always be in contact at least once a day. Always. How's it going? We talk, I'd be out in the middle of the Arctic, freezing, talking to Louise. I'd keep the batteries in a pocket right against my skin. Like, that was just so I made sure that the batteries on that satellite telephone would never go cold and die, because I had to talk to Louise. We were, we were like that. So now, it was the 21st of September that she passed away, and so it's almost 3 weeks now. And there's a sadness, because I go to reach, I want to call her. Hey, I'm getting on the airplane. I love you, I love you, I love you, in case something happens. But I can't call her now. And when I land safely, you kind of reach for the phone. Because we loved each other. So that's gone. But the love that we had, that's, no one can ever take that away. It existed. It existed, and I look at it as another gift. I mean, how many people in this world get to be there at such, and feel such loss and such deep sorrow. A child would be way worse. That would be way worse. Louise and I talked about, we had 2 years from her diagnosis to when she passed away, a year and 11 months. And we both, a child is just beyond the pale. Nobody, I can't imagine it, and nobody can unless they go through it. Nobody can imagine what I went through unless they've gone through it. Because sorrow, that powerful force of sorrow that you feel, imagination doesn't live where that exists. It's just the abyss. It's in the blackness that human imagination cannot exist down at those levels. So no one can imagine what it feels like. So I've been gifted that. I felt I've been honored to have as great a love as anybody could ever have. I'm not saying that there's not, others out there that have that type of a love. There is. And I've also, I know now what it feels like to have that and have that taken away. And that, that gives you a certain, I guess, if it's a lesson, if it gives you a certain strength. And so I won't ever dishonor her memory by falling apart. She would never expect it. She would never want it. And it's not who we were. We were, every second we lived, and there's no regrets, no regrets. So I guess if I have anything to share, I'll share it with the world and let them know, hey, this is how I feel. I could probably write a book on it right now. In fact, I wrote a book while Louise was going through this, 56 stories of her childhood, my childhood, and she wasn't feeling well a lot of times. So I try and have to coax the stories out of her to be able to write them. But I'll publish that, because I think it'll give an insight there's so many people love Louise that this book, when it comes out, will give a true insight into how fiercely independent she was, as well as being, the most wonderful mother and spouse and daughter. I mean, there was no crack in that. That's who she was. She was just beautiful and an angel. So I'm never gonna, I was lucky. I was lucky to have that time I had, and it's beyond luck. So what am I going to do now? Cry and feel remorse. I was gifted that time with her. I was very lucky. So, and I also have the good fortune. I mean, you really have to do a spin on it to make it look like that. But the good fortune to know what it means to lose love like that. That's, yeah, I think it makes, it's making, it's challenging me to the very, very nth degree, but we'll see. Talk to me in 10 years and let's see how I did. But right now, I honor every single second I had with her and the memory of those seconds rather than feeling sorry for myself, because that's what it really is me missing her. And I mean, today I got a pang of, came to Eva's house here, and that's why the crappy background instead of a really cool background like I'd normally have for a podcast. But I came here and Louise can't see this, so I regret that. But Louise isn't here to see this, so it was never an option. She's in a better place. She believed in God, and I have no doubt that she was an angel, and somewhere there was a mistake, and she was sent to Earth for that time period, and now she's back in heaven where she came from. So yeah, it's sad, but it's also, the memories are beautiful, and that's where I'd rather spend my time rather than thinking about what was me right now.
It's pretty special to hear you talk about her that way, to hear how much you cherished her and the relationship that you had, because unfortunately, I don't think that's as common as it used to be. And as you're saying this, one thing I'm really impressed by is your level for long-term vision, whether that's one day into a walk on the beach with her, or talking with a cable network, a company about your show, or even writing your newest book. I think I read somewhere or saw something that you started writing this in 1997, and you knew that this was going to be something that you were going to create over that time frame and put out to the world. I'm really curious about your vision. Is that something that you've always inherently had? Is it something that you've needed to work on and develop? But how do you see things so far ahead and then stick with the design or the vision or the goal that you have over the long term?
I think it's a sense of self-worth. So I think, and also not, I believe you have to attain respect. You have to earn respect. And so I, there's a bunch of factors that come into that. At a very early age, I had a very clear vision of my capabilities. Whatever it was, I knew I wouldn't do what my dad was doing. I actually felt bad for my parents, at 10. And that was a terrible feeling, because I'm not talking shame, because my dad was a really well-respected road construction superintendent. But I just felt that they could have done so much more if they would have just, and that was the age of 10. So that was the first time I envisioned the museum, and I knew that I would have a museum. I would spend my lifetime doing that. That's a lot of what I've done is for that, but also to write a novel. I started my first novel when I was 10. And at the same time, I was reading voraciously at that time at a high level. I spent so much time in detentions because I wasn't listening to whatever they were doing. I was reading, and I say it, J.A. Hunter wrote the book Hunter back in those days. And I was in Kenya, looking after the rhino problems and elephants and Cape Buffalo. That's where I spent my grade 10 or when I was 10 years old, grade 5. so I, and I have never had a problem setting a goal that's going to take a lifetime to attain. Why not? You have one lifetime, so why not use it to do that goal? But I think it was 93. I penned the first words of Call Me Hunter, the novel. And Zhivago was dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. I penned those words, and the whole first, that first second person perspective opening stanza, but then I realized I hadn't lived life enough at that point to finish the novel. I didn't have enough experience. And I've said this before, you can write a novel, you can go to university and be a great creative writer and get A's and come out of university at 21 years of age, 22, whatever it is, and sit down and write a novel, right? But what are you writing about? What have you experienced in your life at 21? A high school sweetheart dumped you or whatever. What are you going to talk about? So
Right,
that was
right.
never, for me, again, I believe you have to earn respect. And if you haven't lived, how can you write about living? So at 93, I felt I hadn't lived enough yet, and I was in my 30s by then. So I spent another literally 30 years. Well, not 30 years now that it's out, but another 25 years before I sat down again. 2019 November, I sat down and picked up those same words. Zhivago was dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. And I told the rest of the story because now I'd lived enough to actually have a story to tell. So I, for me, the long-term goals, who cares if it takes a lifetime? Beautiful. What a great, wonderful goal that is. And especially when your goal is to live life, not just breathe and exist, but to live this one life, to live it. That's I mean that's really the goal. It's not and all the other bits and pieces. I've dabbled in music and dabbled, like you say, in the armed forces. Although everybody listening and you particularly, I mean, thank you for your service. I had the rank bestowed upon me of honorary lieutenant colonel. So up here in Canada, we're on the British system, so they can pick the troops can pick a commanding officer that's kind of works in parallel with the actual commanding officer that's come up through the ranks. And I think they did it originally hundreds of years ago that way because the troops wanted to get paid. And so if you had the right Duke, you'd make him, a colonel or,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, but he didn't have to come up through the ranks, but he got, ride on the horse with the epaulets and, look how cool I am. But he would pay them. So I think that's why they did it. And it's, so I was chosen by 4 Canadian Ranger Patrol Group up in Canada to be their, I don't want to say titular commanding officer, but because I had full uniform, full rank, except in the field of battle. And then I would have had to defer to the commanding officer. So don't anybody think that I actually earned that. I did not. It was bestowed. Yeah, and
Well, you earned it. You earned it in other ways through, like you said, respect and trust. So there is a level of earning to that as well.
Yeah, well, thank you, and yes, I agree. But what you guys do in the armed forces, I mean, I didn't know about it in Canada. It wasn't a thing when I grew up. I would have been in there. Are you kidding me? That's like serve your country. I mean, it would have been lock, stock, and lockstep with what I wanted to do with my life. But it wasn't an option for me. I didn't know it was an option. But yeah, so I've always done what I wanted to do and do it well with. And if it was a side, like music, or it was all part of this writing the novel. Writing a novel was to tell my story. That's what I say that's what I say in the preface. This is my story. Is it truth or is it fiction? It'll be up to everybody to decide. But there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of the life I lived in Call Me Hunter.
I like novels like that. I don't know if this is a new phenomenon, but it seems like there's more and more novelists. Dan Brown comes to mind, who's obviously well researched when it comes to the fictional work. It's like, is this fiction or is this historical accuracy? Another one that comes to mind is a friend. I'm sure he's a friend of yours as well, as Jack Carr. You know, you read his books, and there is a lot of real world scenarios infused into books like that because he's lived it, he's experienced it, he's lived it. You were talking about rhinoceros conservation. I've seen him go and do safaris to learn more about this and research so he can put things into
Yeah,
his book. And you're doing the same thing with Call Me Hunter.
yeah, it's the same. Yeah, Jack is great. Yeah, I've known. I was standing with him. I was standing with him when he got the cell phone call from Chris Pratt saying that yes, he's going to option
Oh, really?
his first terminalist. Yeah. So and John Newman and I were standing there with him, and he got into it was Chris Pratt, and so he took the call, and then it was yes, yes, and yeah, we had a big party that night. So yeah, he's a great author, and I told him at that time, I said, I've got a novel, I just have to get it out of my head. When it gets done, I'll send it to you. And
Yeah, he
I was
endorsed the book, didn't he?
yeah, he
Yeah.
gave a beautiful word. He was he's a cool guy because in the writing world I found that it's very few, if any, it's kind of taboo for a writer who's already established writer and recognized, and to recommend another writer's manuscript that's not recognized.
There's
To
risk in that.
There's risk because you're going to waste 8 hours of either your agent's time or 10 hours or the publisher's time, and they get 1,000 manuscripts a week at Simon and Schuster. So 1,000, and those are vetted manuscripts from agents. My agent gets 1,000 a month, and she vets it down to 3 that she'll present anywhere. But these have been vetted, and so what are the odds? What are the odds that a writer happens to know another person that's writing at that caliber? Really, really slim. So they just, why even take the chance? Because you give it to your publisher on a bad day and they don't like the start, whatever done. It looks, they frown upon it in the industry. But Jack, when I sent him, and I told him that day, when I was talking, I said, yeah, what you're doing is what I believe. You live life first and then you write. That you have a story to tell, and you're telling it with Terminalist. And I said, I'll get my story, 2019. That's when I'll sit down and write it, and I'll send it to you. And he said, oh yeah. At the time, he was starting out, and when I finally got mine done and sent it to him, that's all he needed. It was this manuscript like that thick coming in the mail to him, and but he read it. He read it, and he had me on his podcast, the Danger Close.
Danger Close.
Yeah, and he was just so enthusiastic. He said, "This belongs on." He said, "There's a shelf of special books." He said, belongs on this shelf. Here's the generic, but this is where this. It was, for me, it was like, holy cow, he's like a real writer, and he is the one that got it into Emily Bessler, who's like the rock star of editing in New York City. She's discovered many of the modern best-selling authors. That's her stock in trade. That's what she's
Okay.
known, is discovering new talent. And he gave it to her, and she read it and loved it and wanted. She personally edited this with me, so but that was Jack. And this is what I
Yeah.
say, that speaks volumes. It's actually when you get a chance to read the acknowledgments at the end, he's one of the very first ones. Like, just thank you, because without him, it never would have gone to the next step. And he took a huge risk, especially, that was, it's not now. He's got 6, #1 bestsellers in the New York Times. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he's the big dog now. But this was before he was, he took a huge risk handing that off, but he believed in it. So, and again, it's, back to what you were saying, he lived his life and then wrote about it. I lived
Right.
my life and then wrote about it, as opposed to the other way around. There's writing about whatever and then living life. It's a big difference to me. It doesn't mean it's not right to do it that way too. It's just, I could never have done it that way. I didn't have a story to tell.
You know how I knew Jack was the real deal is I actually went and I asked to do a podcast, and he invited me to his home in northern Utah. He hadn't met me before, but invited me into his house. We went and did the podcast, and it took a couple hours, to get through. And right before I was leaving, he's like, "Hey, hold on, I've got something for you." And he went out to his freezer in his garage, and he pulled out some elk meat from him and his daughter. I think that his daughter had shot, and he said, "Here,
Yeah.
take this with you." And I knew right then, I'm like, all right, this guy's, there's something special about this guy. If he's going to, he's going to invite me to his house. I don't know him. Then he's going to send me with something that is, food, but also very sentimental and important to him because it was his daughter's first elk hunt, I think.
Yeah.
That's when I knew like this is the real deal right here.
Yeah. And that's field to table lifestyle. The people that live like that are good people.
Yeah, no doubt.
They believe they believe in all of those building blocks that made our nation so great in this world. Honor, respect, chivalry, tradition, family there, and that's who he is. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful guy. Him and I are actually he's coming to one of my book signings. I think they
Oh, good.
juggle those around. Yeah, so he'll show up. So for sure there'll be a lot of people there on that book signing. It's
Whether they're
actually
for you or him, to be
yeah.
determined, right?
Well, because it's at a bookstore, they'll be there for him. It's I when they were setting up my tour for Call Me Hunter, it starts right away here. They were going to have bookstores. I said, why would you do that? Let's do them at Cabela's and Bass Pro shops around. People, that live that field to table lifestyle, they don't necessarily go down to the bookstore every week, but they go to
Right.
Cabela's.
Right.
And people that don't live the field to table lifestyle, they go to bookstores. But do they go into Cabela's? I think there's higher odds. So I said, let's try and bring the book readers that read novels that maybe don't live the field to table lifestyle. Let's bring them to the Cabela stores and the Bass Pro Shop stores, and all our people will come there that live our lifestyle. So they'll come anyway. So I kind of hedged my bets on how many people would show up by having the location at Bass Pro and Cabela stores. This will be the first for where there's the New York people, Simon and Schuster people are kind of scratching their head going,
Huh?
Cabela's and Bass Pro? Who does book signings at Cabela's and Bass Pro? So it's been an interesting melding of people that never the twain shall meet. Because when would Simon and Schuster? I mean, they didn't have a clue who I was. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I'm hoping that Call Me Hunter doesn't just end up in the hands of us. I think it's important because of the messages in this book. I've flipped the stereotypes, and I think it could be a catalyst. It's well written. I tried to actually get it published in with literary like publishers of literature. Real kind of, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't even read it. They said no, it's too. They Googled me, and they basically said you can't possibly write literature, so go away. So, yeah, I mean, not a down and out depressive professor, who has had everything gone wrong in their life. I guess that's what you have to be to write a literature. But yeah, but I do hope. I think, I believe that you've got to find common ground. The world nowadays, our society is so divided. Like they're just like that, and the opposites. There's you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. And it's not. They're not stupid people on either side. I mean, there is, but the majority aren't. But they really believe something, and they will not talk to the other side. So I think you have to reach out and give them something that they recognize in their world and have respect for. Well, writers, novelists, that's respected in, other outside of our hunting world, outdoor
different circles.
Lifestyle. Yeah, different circles. So I wrote something that I think is good enough for them to actually go, oh, okay, I like this. But I flipped the stereotypes. So if they like it, that means they're kind of also condoning the evil villain in this book is an animal rights extremist. So they're, I flipped it. Instead of the hunter being the horrible, whatever Lion King kind of killer, Bambi killer, whatever, and I, made the anti-hero, he's the hunter. The protagonist is a young lady. So, and I don't want to give it away, but I flipped it all around. So now if they like that, that means they're kind of also liking this idea, which changes the stereotype that mainstream media has been painting us as, and I've said it before, is as louts with no higher sensibilities that spit on the floor. And, you can't take them into a fancy restaurant. I mean, this is what you're going to get if I walk in a fancy restaurant anyway. But just because it's not a Gucci suit doesn't mean I'm not capable of holding a conversation with somebody in a Gucci suit. And we all are. We all are on both sides. We just don't get a chance to converse anymore. So this book is like throwing a line out there and saying, hey, if you hold on to that line, maybe we can pull each other a little bit closer together, and hopefully it'll open up more doors for more writers like this, more maybe even television. Like Jack's done it. His character is a hunter. Right. His character is a hunter. So that he's already, and look at how popular it is. Like
mainstream at this point.
Yeah, and this means that those guys in the big ivory towers with the money are looking at that and going, oh, maybe there is a market for this. That number one, money talks. So if they've been told that those guys don't read, those those people don't read, that okay, well, we won't publish any for them then. But now that they are, with Jack's books alone, they're finding out, oh no, there's a huge demand.
There's a market here.
Yeah, there's a market, and money talks. So again, I'm hoping that this book will garner some respect. I mean, there's people that aren't going to like it because I flipped just it's cognitive dissonance with their ideologies. Just I'm not going to read this garbage because it's that's hunters are bad. Period. Period. Which is again part of this problem. The intolerance in the world that's keeping us apart. So I'm hoping that this book does more than just I mean it's not about the money. I was kind of joking the other day that it's about $1.50 an hour for me on the amount of effort that I did this. So
I bet over 20 plus years, I bet it equates to not very much at all.
No. Yeah, you're talking pennies per hour. So it's so it's not about the money. And like I said earlier, Louise and I are giving everything away anyway. So it's not about the money. Whatever money I make from this is going to get given away anyway. It will. So yeah, but I'm hoping that it reaches outside our market. And the book tour, I kind of hedged my bets. As I said, I put them in Cabela's and Bass Pro, but that one Jack will be coming to in Arizona. So I'm really looking forward to that. I actually, last time I was at a SHOT Show was maybe 3 years ago, and maybe 4 years ago even. But I was walking down the aisle. You've obviously been to a SHOT Show, and there's like gazillions of people, and there was this lineup that was like way around the corner, and I walked along like a little professional jealousy, like who's got such a big lineup at SHOT Show, and there it is, there he is signing, right? So I go, oh, so I just couldn't make myself stand in this line, so I went up behind him and hey, I cheated. But it was kind of cute because the people in the lineup knew who I was too. So it was you get a pass in that case, as long as you shake all their hands too and get pictures.
That's right.
Together.
That's right.
But yeah, so Jack and I this one will be together. So it'll be really fun. I mean, he's the biggest. He's the biggest right now. So
yeah,
that's he's obviously letting a little bit of his sunshine fall down on me. So it'll be fun.
Well, I'll do my part as well. I know the guys listening are going to be interested not only in the book Call Me Hunter, but they're also going to be interested in your lifestyle. And it's been inspiring to me. This conversation is a highlight of the conversations I've had to be able to talk with you. I've seen you walking around at SHOT Show. I wanted to come introduce myself, but I couldn't bring myself to stand in any of those lines either. So I'm glad we got to do this on a one-on-one basis for an hour or so.
Yeah. Just tap me on the shoulder. I mean,
I will next time.
Yeah. It's a professional courtesy that we all extend to each other. I mean, what you're doing is reaching out and you're promulgating this, our lifestyle. You're telling the world about it, and that gives you a pass on any line out. So you make sure you just
I appreciate that.
Yeah, tap me on the shoulder because that's yeah.
Will you tell the guys where to connect with you? Obviously, they can pick up a copy of the book. This interview is going to be released the day that the book comes out, October 17th, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So the book is available now. You can get it anywhere books are available. But how do the guys connect with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing in any of the realms that you're operating in?
Social media is originally you'd asked about that, which I never really quite got around to, was the social media. How, how do we, how did I end up being a social? I'm old to be on social media. Um, just before I answer your direct question, I'll answer your original one. Eva was working for us at that time. She was my personal assistant, but you know, I mean, she's great at her job, but there's no way she's going to stay as her daddy's professional assistant. So the something called social media was starting to, it kept hearing it, social media, but it didn't really exist. And I told Eva, go figure it out. I give you 6 months. I was traveling a lot. I said 6 months. I want you to come back and report to me what this new thing is, social media. And she did, and she researched it and she figured it out. She was right at the leading edge of all that social media stuff, and it was Facebook at the time. And when I came back, there was even another one before that, or at the same time they're competing. But she came back and said this. She said, "Look, Dad, this is what it is," and she explained it all to me. And she said, "Oh, by the way, you have like 3,000 followers. I have 6,000 followers." And she hadn't even done anything. Like, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, so that's when you realize too that this is a new age. That it doesn't matter what I'd accomplished. For some reason, she had, well, besides she's cute, she's also articulate. She, you know, she had twice as many as I did for all the work I'd done in my life, for all the recognition I thought I deserved. So this is why I realized, wow, this social media, there's more to it, because this is going to be the future. They don't have to, yeah, they don't have to compete in my world. I have to compete in their world. So I said, okay, let's 100% all in on whatever the social media thing is, and I need to absolutely someday catch up to you. Still to
Not
this
a
day,
chance.
no, no. And lets me know every single day. Yeah, it says, "Oh, Dad, here, I have 2 million followers or whatever." But anybody can follow me on our social platforms, and I truly live, out what's going on is what I say. It's my honest truth. There's no, I do the posts. I do the whatever pictures, and so we're on Facebook and Instagram, and also on Twitter. Although Twitter, it's not. I don't even go on Twitter myself, but I do post on it. You can go to our website, jimshockey.com. You can go to our Hand of Man as well. That I think there's social platform there too, and websites. And Rogue River Outfitters is ours as well. That's growing like crazy right now. Because that's more on the pure hunting side, our outfitting operations, part of the empire you referred to earlier. I've got 12 million square acres up in the Yukon that is my favorite place in the world. It's not a single road, like not a house, just our cabins on lakes and rivers, all airplane access. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love it. Our late season caribou are going on right now. When this podcast comes out, it'll be on the probably the third hunt set at that point. But yeah, you can. I'm pretty hard not to. If you want to find me, you can find me. Now you can
track you down.
Google, yeah, Call Me Hunter will be. You can Google that too and end up somehow finding me. But our Instagram, and I don't know all that hashtag stuff, but it's, or handles or whatever they call it, but it's Jim Shockey Official. I think, I don't know.
We'll sync it all up.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. I was on his podcast, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, and he asked me that. So what's your Instagram hashtag or something? I go, I had no idea what he was going to do.
That's funny.
Yeah,
well, it's pretty easy to find you now, so that shouldn't be an issue if guys want to track you down and learn more about what you're up to.
Yeah, no, and I'll say it like it is. This is what's going on in my life right now, and Louise, all through that was, people followed that,
Yeah.
and if it helped people, and I know it did, that then I know Louise right now will be, she'll be not proud because it was never her. She would be honored, that she helped people. That's what her whole life was about. So everything that's going on in our family, it's all there. My dog, you'll hear if I'm eating my can of beans and 3 wieners, I'll post that, but always with some humor, entertainment, because I think it's the same, it's storytelling. So
Right.
it's, and anybody now can go online and find our, wherever my appearances are, or book signings over this next 3 weeks. I'll be all over the place, all over the states, or as many places as I could get to that they organized. And anybody out there that hears this and says, you're not coming here, well, I didn't make the final choices. It was that was above my pay grade. So
Yeah.
I could only do so much. So, but yeah, easy to find on any of those platforms.
Good. Well, we'll sync it all up. Again, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to your family, and really appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on and giving me a voice.